All right, kings, gentlemen, everyone else, welcome to yet another exciting episode of Guy walking around in an unkempt park. And we thought, we've been focused way too much on America. Let's think about geopolitics now. Donald Trump released this word salad or word slop statement, whatever you want to call it, where he sort of threatens Russia, but he also declares how much he loves them. That he tried negotiating with Putin, but Putin is just too irrational. And fundamentally, I think it's just theater, and it also contained like the requisite, Trump bullshit about how the war would never have started if he was president. There would have been a war on. I'm so good. I'm so great. Everyone's stupid except me. That's basically what he said. I suspect he wrote that one himself, right? Because it's just so stupidly worded, and you can take it to mean anything else. But there was a reveal. There was a reveal when he said, I love Putin. I want to help Putin save Russia. And that's just the reality of it. Right now, at this moment, Donald Trump is the only person who can save Russia. I have already predicted Russia's collapse on this channel. Russia will collapse. It is almost an inevitability. I say almost because if you look at the fundamentals, the Russians have completely fried their economy in order to continue this war. They are really buckling under the strain. They have destroyed their Soviet legacy of military equipment. They're no longer a serious military force. They've been forced to cannibalize naval crews and missileer crews, so nuclear missile silo crews, in order to keep the futile infantry charges going. Just more fodder for the Ukrainian guns and bombs. And no, the Russians have really not achieved anything of note, and they will conk out. Eventually, the state will grow so weak that it will basically, all you have to do is say boo and it will fall over, which is not to even taken into account all of the secular difficulties they had before the Civil War started. Like, for example, that its leadership is, the average age is 65 or something. Basically, this is a gerontocracy. And the biggest enemy of gerontocracy is time. Well, that all being said, there is a way in which the Russian shit show can be salvaged, and that is if Donald Trump, actually steps in and forces the Ukrainians, you could say at gunpoint, to make peace, and then turns around and, together with China, starts propping up the Russian state the way the West has done for centuries before. As we have said before on this channel, the Russian state would have been destroyed 2, maybe 3 times over without the intervention of Western powers just pouring in massive resources, military assistance, and in some cases even militarily defeating the enemies of the Russian state. Now, one of the big obstacles I had to overcome, as an Eastern European, in growing to love the West, let's call it that, was something we call the betrayal at Yalta. You've all heard of the Yalta conference where Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill got together and carved up Europe between themselves, right? Essentially, Roosevelt handing Eastern Europe to Stalin on a silver platter, with Churchill barely managing to, get a carve out for Greece, get an exception for Greece, which, Stalin immediately violated and started the Greek Civil War with the communists over there. And as an Eastern European whose family suffered greatly under the communist regime, suffering all the way back to 1917, you could say, but that's another topic for another day. I've always been, let's call it a little bitter about the West's decision to back communists, to back Bolsheviks, to back essentially what is a Mongol horde rampaging through the heart of Europe. And now I'm seeing exactly that being a serious risk of foreign policy. Now we are seeing a situation where Trump is setting himself up to be the savior of Russia. You know, Russia is a state which not only could, but it should collapse. It is the very definition of an evil empire. It is the only living successor state of the Mongol Horde, right? Even the Mongolians have mellowed out over the years, but these guys, they still have this sort of barbaric bloodlust, and Europe would have beaten them into submission a long time ago were it not for those meddling Yanks and Anglos. I don't want to spread hatred of England and America here on this channel because I believe in the brotherhood of European nations, but sometimes I get so pissed. So now we have a risk of a second Yalta. We have getting a risk of a second Yalta, and the role of Churchill will probably be fulfilled by Olaf Scholz or some other treacherous cunt that we have in power here in Europe. But yeah, Trump wants to be Rooseveltian, Churchillian. He wants to be, I don't know, he wants to be some sort of figure of history when he grows up. And it may be entirely possible that he blackmails the Ukrainians into making peace. Now, ideally, this would mean that, you know, Trump finds Putin so difficult to deal with that, you know, he just sort of gives up on Putin and just goes for it. However, I do not believe this will happen because I believe that Donald Trump has an ideological affinity for Russia, and also his boss, Elon Musk, needs Russian raw resources to fuel his megalomaniacal fantasies. And what's more, you know, Trump is bribable. Trump is very easily bribable. As we said in the previous video, you have the Trump coin, the Melania coin. Putin can just buy 5 billion worth of those and effectively transfer, you know, 4 billion into Trump's wallet because Trump controls 80% of that coin. And yeah, that's very likely to happen. You know, they're not going to negotiate over strategic U.S. interests. They're not going to negotiate over actual security things. They're like, okay, Trump's going to say, okay, you can have Crimea and Donbass, but you're not getting Kherson and Zaporizhia. And then Putin offers him $10 billion. All right. Is Zaporizhia worth $10 billion? No, I think it's worth 50 billion. I think it may be worth 50 billion. And then Putin goes down to 20. It's like real horse trading. This is what I suspect is going to happen because that's what authoritarians do. It's like, why did Muammar Gaddafi award a construction contract to a Canadian company when the French had the better bid? Well, because the Canadians flew in professional hookers from Montreal to sort of fuck him till his brains came out. Okay, that was cruel because that's what actually happened to Gaddafi. They raped him with a bayonet until his brains came out, which not an altogether bad way to dispose of a dictator, of an authoritarian monster. But you understand where I'm going with this. Authoritarians are very easy to bribe because they are, to a man, petty, you know, miserable little shits, non-ideological, and they're into money and they're into all sorts of perverse shit. And this is really the danger of it. Trump's ego is going to drive him to want a second Yalta where he basically sells out Europe to the Russians once again. The Anglo powers, well, America, not the United Kingdom, not Canada, but the United States, you know, they seem poised to once again bail out Russians and save them from the Russians' own stupidity. And us poor, long-suffering Eastern Europeans are going to be left holding the bag. Now, the only way to prevent this is to make sure that not only can Europe support Ukraine without the assistance of the Americans, but that Europe can support Ukraine without the assistance of the Americans, while Russia is receiving assistance from the Americans, and at the same time, America is itself under hybrid war attacks from the USA, and specifically the Musk complex, the techno-oligarchs, you know, Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, all of these grifts. And to do that, we're going to have to take a serious look at our own technological sovereignty here in Europe in terms of information technology, but that's a subject for another video. So stay safe, guys, and try to keep your anger under control. Only cool heads will prevail in this one.